Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. I told you guys, and you guys probably know, we're in the process of moving right now, and I have had to do some packing and cleaning and everything, so I feel like I haven't had time to even think about video ideas like Harry Potter type stuff. I wanted to make a video about pregnancy symptoms that I have had throughout, like early signs of pregnancy and then also first and second trimester symptoms. I feel like I have had so many symptoms, and a lot of the things that I have been experiencing haven't necessarily been things that people told me about before or anything that I had heard of happening before. So I thought it would be nice for me to make a video just in case you are either someone trying to get pregnant or is pregnant and doesn't know, or just something and you just don't know if what you're feeling is normal. So I'm gonna go through some of my symptoms. Before I even knew I was pregnant, I was having some symptoms and I didn't really know if they were pregnancy symptoms or period, because I had a very irregular period. I never really knew when it was coming and didn't know how long it was gonna stay, and it was kind of always like that. It was always a little late or it would come early, and so I had to actually take a lot of pregnancy tests leading up to when we actually got a positive, because I felt like I was pregnant every single month because I never knew when my period was coming, so it was really hard for me to keep track. One of the first symptoms that I had before I even knew I was pregnant was sore breasts. Also, side note, a lot of these symptoms might be like some kind of TMI. So if you don't want to know about like lady parts and things like that, then maybe this is the video for you, because I'm gonna go into detail. I'm not gonna hold back. I'm just gonna tell you guys how it is. So my boobs were hurting really bad, and that was pretty typical for my period. Like a week before my period would come, my boobs would start hurting really bad. But this was 2 weeks before my period was due, although I didn't really have a due date, but I kept track on an app and it would tell me like when it's due, but it would always kind of a little off. So this was 2 weeks prior to that, my boobs were already hurting. So I was like, that's kind of weird. I was just like, whatever, maybe it's just random. Maybe my period's coming early. And then I started bloating a lot and everything, which was fairly normal for that too. And then, so one of the weird things that happened, and this was probably a week before I found out I was pregnant, I started to get dizzy while I was at work. I've never really heard of that being a symptom before. So I was just at work and things would kind of like start to shift. I kind of feel like I was on like a boat or something, and I was just getting kind of dizzy. And there was one day where I actually felt really sick and I had to go in the back at work and lay down. And at that point, I still wasn't technically late for my period. So I was like, okay, I don't know why I'm feeling this. Maybe I just haven't drank enough water today. So it was like, whatever. And then a couple days later, Jonathan was like, okay, you just need to take the test. Took the test, found out I was pregnant. Once that happened, the next symptom that I had to me was really weird. I was cramping really bad. Like all I felt down there was like menstrual cramps. And that's why I thought my period was coming too, because I kept like, it kept feeling like, okay, it's just gonna come tomorrow. It just needs to come out. Like, you know when your cramps are so bad and you just like feel like you just need to start bleeding so that it can like relieve some cramping or something. Like, I don't know how it actually works, but that's how like it visually works in my head. So I just really, like, I was convinced that my period was just coming and it was just taking its sweet ass time, and my cramps were so bad. And I had, again, never heard of like really bad cramping as a pregnancy symptom. So I was like, this is weird. I don't think I'm actually pregnant, whatever. So after we found out that I was pregnant, the cramping continued for probably another week or two. I'm not exactly sure. but it was really uncomfortable. And even after finding out I was pregnant, I was still convinced that my period was gonna come because the cramping was so weird. And I had watched so many videos on YouTube of people with like pregnancy symptoms, and cramping was never one of them. And I'm like, what the heck? Why am I cramping like I'm gonna get my period? Around like 6 weeks is when it started to get really, really fun, guys. That's when the sickness kicked in. So all of a sudden, I was nauseous 24/7, and I could not eat anything. This was ridiculous. Like, I couldn't eat anything. The smell of things made me want to vomit, and I think I vomited a total of 3 times so far. In my first trimester, I think I vomited a total of 3 times, but I was dry heaving every single day, multiple times a day, like so many times. Like, everything would just make me gag, and I would be like over the sink or something, like waiting for something to come up because I could not handle smells and food. And it was so hard to even picture eating anything. It was really rough, and that's what everyone says. The first trimester is really, really hard. You can be like nauseous and all of this stuff, and most of the time it goes away. So I was like really scared that it wasn't gonna go away because it was so awful. And I'm one of those people that like throwing up is a huge fear of mine. I hate being sick. I get really anxious and nervous when I throw up because I'm like terrified of choking. And so I always think I'm gonna like choke on my vomit and I'm gonna die. So I hate throwing up. It makes me really uncomfortable. One of the weird symptoms that I got, which I kind of touched on in one of my vlogs last week, was my mouth. And this one, it was always really weird. I only have met one other person that was like, oh my gosh, I had that too. I had this weird thing with my mouth where, which I still kind of have it, but my mouth has this really gross taste. It's almost like a metallic taste all the time in my mouth, and so it makes food taste differently. It makes water taste differently. It makes it so I don't want to use certain types of cups because it just like the correlation in my mouth, it's really hard. But it makes my mouth taste gross all the time. I brush so much more than I did even before, because before it was like 2 to 3 times a day. Now it's like I want to brush all the time because just like everything just like tastes bad. And that was a really weird one. I read that it is a thing. I looked it up on Google. It is a thing that people can get that, and it's like a metallic taste, like pennies in your mouth all the time. And sometimes it goes away and sometimes it doesn't during the first like trimester throughout your whole pregnancy. It's not as bad as it was, but I still definitely taste it. Like, my mouth is not normal, and I am very aware of it at all times. But that was one of the weird things that I went through during the first trimester as well. Another thing that has changed from within the first trimester that started happening, obviously my boobs started growing a lot, and I wasn't expecting them to grow as much as they did. I naturally have small boobs, but they grew like tremendously for me. Like, it was a lot more than what I was expecting. And it's just weird. Like, I didn't know that they were gonna grow so much like in the beginning. Obviously at the end you're like, okay, yeah, you're getting your milk in, whatever. They're gonna grow when you start to breastfeed. But no, honey, they start growing real quick. Like, mine did at least. They're just like, to me, my boobs are huge because I'm so used to such small boobs, but that's just me. Another thing that grew, not only my boob, but my nipple. So this is like kind of weird to go over, but I didn't know that this happened. The size of your nipple grows, like the outer circle, like it grows. And I didn't know that that was a thing, so that was like kind of weird. But not only does it grow, it changes colors. This is so weird. So mine have gotten darker since I've been pregnant. I don't know if that's something that goes away or if it just stays and you just have darker nipples after this, like if that's just a thing. But I wasn't really told that that was something that happened. So I was pretty surprised when all of a sudden I was just like, why are my nipples so big and they're like so much darker, and like I just look like I have completely different boobs. Like I went and got a boob job and these are the new ones. That's what my boobs look like to me. They're stranger boobs. That's kind of all of the things that happened in the first trimester. There's a bunch of like little things, like more about like eating aversions, like foods that I could eat, foods that I couldn't eat, and things that kind of went up and down during that. But like main like symptoms, we can hop on over to the second trimester, which is where I'm at right now. I am 20 weeks pregnant while I'm filming this. By the time you guys see it, I'll be 21 weeks. And so things have been looking up. So if you are having a really hard time in your first trimester, hold out. I know it's pretty miserable, but second trimester, for the most part, if you're lucky, gets better. I have been so much happier with the second trimester. Like, I feel like I can actually enjoy being pregnant and be excited about it. In the first trimester, I was having a really hard time where I was so miserable and just having such a hard time that I couldn't even feel like I could really be happy about what was happening because it was just so uncomfortable. But now I'm like very excited about pregnancy and I'm enjoying it. So the symptoms that I've had in my second trimester have been a lot more bearable. One of the biggest ones being back pain. I have always had upper back pain because I work in the dental field, so I'm hunched over kind of all day cleaning people's teeth. And I just have always had upper back pain for whatever reason. Now that I'm pregnant, I have lower back pain, and I've never had that before. I've never experienced it before, and it is not fun. But it's like so lower that it's like my tailbone. Like it feels like I have pain in my butt crack when I sit down. Like my butt crack is in pain. That's what it feels like. And I've been seeing a chiropractor 3 days a week for a couple months now. And even before that, I was seeing a chiropractor for like 2 years. And I swear by them. They've been helping me out. So they adjust me and they do all that fun stuff. And that actually helps a lot. But there's something that you have when you are pregnant, something called relaxin. And so all of your kind of like muscles and everything just kind of relaxes and things just get moved around because things have to be able to move around because you have a baby inside of you. So it's easier for you to get out of line, I guess you can say. You can get out of line when it comes to like working out and stuff like that. I find that when I work out, a lot of the times my back does hurt more the next day because I either like squat too deep or I lunged in a weird way where it just kind of just like twerked my back a little too much. And so I just have had to be really careful when it comes to working out, and I modify a lot because of the lower back pain. But that is probably one of the biggest symptoms that I've had in my second trimester. I didn't experience this in my first trimester. The next one is sleeping. I have had a tough time sleeping. My body's been doing this weird thing, especially on weekends, where I wake up at like 2 in the morning and I'm just wide awake and I can't go back to sleep for hours. So I just like sit there and I try to relax for a long time. I try to just continue to close my eyes and just hang out, but then my mind starts going and then I'm just like, screw it. So I get on my phone, I start watching some YouTube videos, then eventually I fall back to sleep. And it's like, I have never had a hard time sleeping before, so like waking up in the middle of the night and being like fully awake is really hard. And then I also toss and turn a lot because you're not supposed to lay in certain positions when you're pregnant. So I've been going like back and forth, and every time I adjust, I wake up in the middle of the night. I have to pee a bunch during the middle of the night, which I've never been like a nighttime peer, like in the middle of the night, like I pee right before bed and then I don't go again until I wake up. Now it's like I pee like at least two times in the middle of the night, if not more, and like 6 times before I actually go to bed. It's ridiculous how much I'm peeing. And it's crazy because I'm having a hard time drinking water still, so it's like, what am I peeing out? I don't even know. So one of the most incredible, enjoyable things that has happened in my second trimester is feeling the baby kick. So about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I was laying in bed and we were watching a movie and I started feeling something like move around in my stomach, and I was like, oh my God, Jonathan, I think I just felt something. And then we like paused our show that we were watching, and I just like sat there and felt it, and I kept feeling movement, and it was really low, so I didn't think it was like digestion or like anything else. And then since then I have felt it every single day. So, and it's mostly at night when I feel it, like when I'm laying down and relaxing, that's when I can feel her move. But I have felt like pretty big movements, and Jonathan has felt it, like he can put his hand on my stomach now and also feel her move, which is, it's so incredible. It's the weirdest feeling. To me, it does not feel like butterflies or like popcorn. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It feels like, I don't know, and it doesn't feel like gas to me either. It feels like something's kicking in my stomach. That's what it feels like. Like I can imagine a baby just like kicking in my stomach, or like her floating around and her arms moving. Like, that's what it feels like. It feels like a baby moving. It's so incredible. And like when it first happened, we were just like, oh my God, like we couldn't believe that we actually felt it, because I was around 19 weeks when I first felt it. And I didn't think I was going to be able to that soon, because sometimes they say like when you first get pregnant, you might not feel it until you're like a lot further along. But we felt her and it was amazing, and that just makes it all worth it. The last symptom, I guess you can call it, is probably the weirdest thing that has happened, and I swear I freaked out. I was laying in bed one day, and because my boobs are growing and everything is growing, I get really itchy and clothes are uncomfortable. So sometimes I just like to lay without a shirt on and just be there. So I had my top off and I was just laying in bed, and I looked down at my nipple and I noticed that there is a wet spot on my nipple, and I was like, huh, that's kind of weird. I wonder if that's just like I was talking and I spit and a little spit flopped on my nipple. I can't believe I'm telling you guys this. Anyways, so I told Jonathan, I was like, look, there's a wet spot on my nipple. And he's like, yeah, it's probably just spit. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I just decided, I was like, I'm just gonna squeeze my boob and see what happens. So I squeezed my boob and my nipple, and stuff came out of it. And I was like, like we literally both freaked out. Like I started crying and like screaming, because I did not think that that was possible. Like I literally, oh my God, I had no idea that this was a thing that could happen at 19 weeks pregnant. Like, is that, what? Immediately I called my mom and I was like crying on the phone, like laughing and crying, because we were just like in shock, freaking out. And I asked her, I was like, is this normal? And she's like, yeah, it's totally normal. It didn't happen to her, it didn't happen to my sister, it hasn't happened to anyone I know, but I guess it's normal. I looked it up on Google. Google says it's normal, so I think I'm okay. The next day I was curious if it was happening again, so I did it again, and it happened again. So I really couldn't believe that. Like literally that day I was joking to Jonathan about how big my boobs have gotten, and I don't understand because there's nothing in them, so like why are they so big? But clearly there is something in them, guys. There's stuff inside of my boobs already. They're like ready to give a baby nourishment, which is crazy. Anyways, guys, that is all of my pregnancy symptoms, things that have happened to me, and fun times that have been going on here in the Castora family with this baby. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see new videos weekly that are mostly Harry Potter or baby related. I will see you guys next week with a new video.